Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our booster session in our series. Today will be brought to you by the Addictions Foundation of Manitoba and me. My name is Sherry Lissy Severson, and I'm a public educator here at the AFM for the last 12 years. I just wanted to get a little piece of housekeeping out of the way. If you are watching this on a recorded session, unfortunately, you won't be able to ask questions live, but there is a phone number and an email at the end so that people can access myself to answer questions. So welcome here today. And I'm also moderator for this session as well. So I'm just quickly checking the questions just to make sure that folks are with me here. And it looks like we're good to go. So today's topic is coping during a pandemic. And I just want to take a moment to just share that this is all new for us, that we've never done this before. And that this time last year, for me, these words that I have here on the screen, I didn't know much about. And so we've had things like, lockdown, quarantine, public health orders. We've now had to change and adapt to find a way through this. And so how are we adapting and changing and coping with what's happening around us and continues to happen around us? So I often, get asked around, well, what are healthy coping skills and maybe like what are some unhealthy coping skills? And I'm not necessarily here to define what that means for you. I think that when you're looking at how are you coping, and you have a bit of reflective time around that, you may be able to come up for yourself whether or not something is healthy or unhealthy. But I did want to point out a few things. So if you're anything like me or people in my life, online shopping has really increased at my house. I am now apparently a member of Amazon Prime, which I never thought I would ever be a part of. But when we went through our first lockdown, according to Statistics Canada, of course, when you're looking at the brick and mortar stores, they closed their doors. And so a lot of people needed to, rush and change to the way that they shop. So Statistics Canada talked about how e-commerce sales have more than doubled year over year, but specifically with 110% increase compared to May of 2019. So that is really speaking to how often we are accessing online shopping, and again, asking yourself, are these things that have been helpful for me, or have these things been a hindrance for me? Another one to take into account, of course, is drinking. So according to the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Abuse, part of the reason why people are gravitating towards changing the way that they feel with alcohol or other drugs is because of the blurring of the daily and weekly routines that we have. People may be feeling stressed or anxious from the pandemic and the economic turndown, and of course feelings of social isolation. And another piece that may come into play as well is potentially stockpiling. So we have definitely seen an increase in alcohol and drug use. I put this one here as well, so gaming. So global gaming study was researching the impact of COVID-19 on gamers' behaviors. So this study in particular went on to find that people are spending an increased time and increased money on gaming. And people are consuming their games a bit differently now as well, around streaming their video games and what type of games are being played. So interestingly enough, what people are finding is that, what this research is finding is that people are playing video games like multiplayer games. So even though they may be alone, they're playing virtually with other people. And the last one that I wanted to share on this slide is about social media, which I found this piece of research quite fascinating, actually. According to StatShot from July 2020, for the first time, there's a lot of firsts, hey, happening around here. For the first time, more than half of the world's population now uses social media, which I just found fascinating. So what they also found is that many digital habits that were formed during, our first lockdown in the spring have endured despite the easing of restrictions, that social media users have grown by more than 10% over the last year. And so for those of us who are actively engaged in social media, we may find that we're spending, maybe more of our time, more of our energy, and more of our efforts in being online. Awesome. So, what else are we doing? We're building ice rinks in our backyards. We're learning how to make sourdough. We're doing puzzles. We're going on walks. We're listening to vinyl records. We're doing home renovations. We're doing crafts. I put the puppets in here because I recently heard an article about how puppet sales are going through the roof. People are looking for things to do with their kids, so I just thought that was an interesting thing to put on there. We're selling out snowmobiles. We're fostering animals. We're exercising inside. We're learning how to cook. We're learning how to do macrame. We're doing puzzles, playing games, and most recently, I just heard about ice sculpting. I just want to take a moment and have a little bit of a reflection on what makes these coping skills, good versus bad, healthy versus unhealthy. And essentially, that comes down to you. So I've included some reflective questions just around, do you think that you need to make a change for yourself? So some things that you may want to ask is, am I investing more time, energy, and resources into this activity than I intended to? Is this behavior taking up more of my mental space than I intended it to? Do I feel good about myself when I use this coping strategy? Is partaking in this activity detrimental to my relationships? And am I keeping this behavior a secret to others? So these are sometimes some questions that we ask our clients when they access services with us at AFM around the changes that they want to make in regards to how they're coping. And so I wanted to share some of these questions with you. We know, just mindful of the time, we know that we can't make other people change, but is there something that we want to change for ourselves? So did you know that there is a very unconscious way to make decisions that's very predictable? And I'm going to share this with you. So anybody who has ever wanted to make a change in their life in regards to their behavior or their actions have, unconsciously and also predictably gone through these certain stages. So this is called the stages of change. And I just want to share them with you quickly, just have a couple more slides. And again, folks, if you have questions, you can feel free to put them in the question box if you like. So the first stage is, we call it pre-contemplation. Previously may also be known as denial. So this is an initial stage where someone doesn't feel the need to make a change. They feel that they actually don't have a problem whatsoever with their behaviors or with their actions. So, that could be someone who, again, you might say is in denial. So we have this individual at stage 1 and they're saying, geez, I hate dealing with money. I'll just work till I die. It's almost impossible for this person to see a way forward. And again, when you're looking at making a change, sometimes it does feel pretty impossible to see what your life could or would look like without this behavior or activity or substance. We move into stage 2, which is contemplation. And this is when you begin to see, we like to call it the seesaw of change, where you have, some part of you that is maybe looking at making a change, and the other part of this seesaw sort of, again, weighing you down in old behaviors and old actions and old patterns. So you may be looking at, someone who wants to increase their, fruits and veggies, or decrease their red meat, or decrease their caffeine, right? And you've got maybe all the pros for making that change, but you also have, someone might feel maybe some of the cons of making that change. So again, it's kind of that seesaw. Once a person has made the decision to make the change, and this is moving into stage 3 or preparation, you can see here that this individual in the picture, well, she seems to be doing a little bit of research. And that is exactly what preparation is about, is that it is about research. It's about coming up with a plan. It's about, writing down goals. It's about, how can we make this work? But I want to be very clear here that the preparation piece should not be mistaken for the action piece, which is coming up here on step number 4. So in preparation, we may be writing down recipes. We may be, looking at phone numbers of people that we can call to support the change that we're going to make. For example, if you're looking at, reducing your smoking or reducing maybe your drinking or what have you, you might be writing down phone numbers of resources to support you. Again, make it very clear that still in the preparation stage, no action has been taken yet. When you finally start, when you start your plan, when you start those recipes, when you engage your supports to make the change, when you're actually working out as opposed to looking at your workout clothes on the couch while eating ice cream, this is the action stage. You're doing it. Next, we move into maintenance. So maintenance is where the action stage, when you're doing these activities and you're moving forward with this change, it feels more comfortable, I'll say. So there's a couple of stages to maintenance, but we won't get into that because, again, it's just the timing. But once you become more comfortable in incorporating and implementing some of these changes, that's when it becomes stage 6. Termination. So as you can see, we've sort of made our way through these stages of making a change. And if you are to think for yourself, what is it about the changes that you've made? You may be able to think more specifically about these certain steps. So there's a question just around, what is the key in motivation between step 2 and step 3? Such a good question. Sometimes it's about time. Fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes people just need to take the time to make the decision, which can maybe feel frustrating for their loved ones or people around them. But people do need that time to kind of weigh that decision, and just to be very mindful of the supports around them. Is that if we tend to really jump on that side of change, and yes, you really should, stop smoking, or you really should work out, or you really should, I don't know, insert behavior here, build more ice sculptures. What ends up happening is that the person kind of digs their heels in to the opposing side for not making a change. Well, I don't smoke that much, and I eat some fruits and veggies, and right, so they begin to explain why, maybe explain themselves into staying the same. So it can be quite tricky. Great question, thank you. I want to be really, I kind of want to be soft with people around making a change right now as well. To notice that you may not be ready, that what you're doing right now to get through this, to survive, doesn't mean that you're always going to be doing it this way, right? So if you're finding that you're spending more time on social media, or you're spending more time gaming, and maybe it's working for you, maybe you reflect to yourself and say, this isn't, I don't want to do this forever, but I'm not ready right now. And so I just want to give you permission to give yourself grace. One step forward is still progress, right? So if we can take this in small steps and move forward, to give yourself that positive feedback that you're still making a change, and that we can only do our best. And part of the reason why we're doing these booster sessions is to remind you that this is a different time, that there is no handbook on how to live through this, and that we are just doing the best that we can. And if you look at those reflective questions and you think to yourself, maybe I do want to make some changes in some of these coping behaviors, reach out. Small changes can really help. And also harm reduction too, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's all at once. You can definitely take small steps. Great. So I just wanted to end off there. I could literally talk forever. My email is really long, but I have it here for you, and I'll keep it on this slide for a couple of minutes. I encourage people who have questions or reflections to write them in. I can take a little bit of time to answer them now. I've also included my phone number as well, and I did also include a link to Shared Health, Mental Health and Addictions Resource Finder, because I know that even if people are looking at making a change, they may not know where to go. Who's open? Who's seeing people? Okay. Okay, so there's a question here around, is it normal to be at the action stage of change for one behavior, but at the pre-contemplation stage for another behavior? Absolutely. So people may be looking at quite a few things happening in their lives, and they may say, I really want to change this one aspect right now, right? Those small steps, that harm reduction, and not worry too much about what's happening on the other side, right? Or what's happening with some other behaviors. So just kind of sticking with one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I just had a question around, can you please show the first slide again for 1 minute? Joanne, I can do that for you for 1 minute. I'm assuming you don't mean this slide. I'm assuming you mean that slide. Any other questions? Okay. If you would like a copy of the presentation, please feel free to call me or email me. I will, my phone number is 944-6344. And again, my name is Sherry. Thank you so much for spending your 20 minutes with me today. Take good care of yourselves, everyone. Thanks.